Hey guys, Captain Dylan Hubbard here at Hubbard's Marina. Welcome to the Sunday night live stream show. That's right, it's Sunday night, y'all, and it's time for that live stream show. We're going to give away free stuff. If you want a chance to win $1,500 in free stuff, don't go anywhere. We've got our Hubbard's Marina live stream show ready to start every Sunday night right here at 7:30 p.m. We talk about what's going on now, what's coming up. We talk about the weather a little bit, and then we get into your questions. Tonight we've got a special show lined up for you. We've got Red Snapper secret bait, secret weapon for the biggest red snapper. We've got our Golf Council update. We've got the Gag Grouper season announcement and more to go over tonight. Plus, we're going to show you what we're catching now. We're going to talk a little bit about what's coming up, and we're going to answer your questions live during the show. Plus, talk a little bit about the tropics. I can't tell you how many people were like, hey, are you going fishing today? There's a hurricane in the Gulf. No, there's not. There's not a hurricane even close to the Gulf. We're going to talk about that too. So, hopefully you're ready for a great show tonight. I know I am, and hopefully you are as well. We're live on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Snapchat, all over the place. Remember, if you want a chance to win some free trips tonight, you do have to comment once on the Hubbard's Marina Facebook stream. So go on over there to Facebook, find the Hubbard's Marina page, make sure you give us a like, give us a follow, find the live video, comment once, let us know where you're watching from. That's how you're entered for a chance to win. Then you have to watch the show live, because randomly throughout the show your name might pop up on the screen when we do an announcement or a giveaway. If you get your name announced, you see your name pop up on the screen, you've got 5 minutes or less to text us your full home address. The phone number is right there on the screen. Text us your full home address. That's how you claim your free trip within 5 minutes. So comment once for a chance to win, like the video, like the page. That's how you enter to win. Then watch the show live. If your name appears on the screen, you got 5 minutes or less by texting us your full home address at the phone number on the screen. That's how you claim it. So you enter by commenting, you claim it by texting within 5 minutes. So you got to watch the show live. You got to comment once for a chance to win. That's how it works. Also want to make sure we give a shout out to our friends over there at Gator Jim's Tackle, 3301 Pinellas Point Drive South in St. Pete. If you haven't stopped by to see our friends at Gator Jim's, you're missing out. Huge selection, killer deals, great people, really, really cool tackle shop. Again, that's 3301 Pinellas Point Drive South in St. Petersburg. Stop by and tell our friends at Gator Jim's Tackle Hubbard's Marina sent you. We'd appreciate it. Plus, you get a free trip if you got a young angler in your life that you bring with you. So make sure you stop on by and tell them Hubbard's Marina sent you. Also, want to make sure we give a shout out to all our supporters out there who are watching on our YouTube and Facebook. We do have a Facebook supporters group. If you're watching on Facebook, you can join that private group. It gives you private access to our private page, and we do a little supporters after show. Right after the main show, we talk a little bit more, get a little bit more intimate one-on-one, and answer your questions. You get more communication, behind-the-scenes notifications, a little bit more up-to-date info, definitely a behind-the-scenes peak. So check out the supporters group. It's only $4.99 a month. You get access to our after show every week and access to that private group with lots of info. So big shout out to all our supporters out there who help make the show possible. And then finally, want to make sure we give a shout out and a thank you to all those who send stars. That definitely helps fuel the show and make what we do even more possible. Robert Riggs sending stars tonight. Bill Borchert, Todd Stutzman, Ed Mack, Jasmine Marie, Keith White, Larry White with a big 500, Jeff Reedy with his Chinese water dragon and a big 1200, Mike Perro, Fritz Schittling, and James McCullum with the big 500 stars, Scott Flynn, Larry White with the big 500, thank you buddy, Jill Petrillo with 1,000, thank you Jill, Jennifer Neal, and Sam Lang and Robert Bush. Appreciate y'all for the stars, the support, and definitely appreciate all of you. Now, don't forget, tonight is the last chance to vote as well. We are in the running for Tampa Bay Times Best of the Best Award for Best Gift Shop, best fishing charter, and best local tourist attraction. So make sure you vote tonight. It is your last chance to support Hubbard's Marina. This is the last day of voting. Josh is going to walk us through that real quick. If you go over to the link Josh just put in the chat, it's Tampa Bay bestofthebest.com. It's going to bring you to this choose category page. You want to choose first of all, you want to choose sports and recreation, then fishing charter boat, then Hubbard's Marina, add vote, then choose new category, hit arts and entertainment, hit local tourist attraction, then hit Hubbard's Marina, then add vote at the bottom. Then make sure you choose new category, go to shopping, go to gift shop, then go to Hubbard's Marina and add vote once again at the bottom. That way you've got all 3 Hubbard's Marinas, and then you submit your ballot. We appreciate it. Tonight is the last chance you have to support Hubbard's Marina in Tampa Bay bestofthebest.com voting. So make sure you do so. Now, with that, we've got some light loads coming up as well. So it is red snapper season. Red snapper season in full swing, but we've got some lighter loads coming up, surprisingly. Tuesday's 39-hour trip, Captain Will is heading out there for more big red snapper, and he's only got 28 people going. That's right, super light 39-hour trip Tuesday, only 28 people, tons of room. So super light 39-hour trip Tuesday, and then also we've got extreme trips. We've added a litany of extreme trips into the schedule. Most of our extreme trips for all of red snapper season were completely sold out. Well, we've added a ton more. This Thursday, we've got a super light load. This coming Sunday, we've got a super light load, and then tons more 12-hour extreme trips coming up. Josh has just pulled up the 12-hour extreme page here, and you can see right there on the top right how many open days we have. Look at those green days. Those are all open bookable days in July. So we've added a ton more trip options for the 12-hour extreme, and they are limiting out every time on red snapper. They're catching big scamp grouper, tons of mangroves, big vermilions, yellowtails, and so much more. So if you want a guaranteed big red snapper in a limit, and you want some nice big mangrove snapper, yellowtails, vermilions, maybe even a big fat scamp grouper, get out there on those extreme trips. It's definitely going to be a blast. So super light extreme trips all month long. The 39-hour trip is super light Tuesday. With that, let's get into some photos and show you guys what we're catching out there. First things first, we're going to start inshore. Our good buddy Scott Sadorf with another monster snook. Oh man, what a solid fish there. Scott can be found at Bel Air Bait and Tackle or Angler 360 in the morning, Dogfish Tackle. He hangs out at all those local bait shops, and he slays the big snook. This is a 40-inch snook caught with 8-pound test line, a 20-pound test leader, and he's sight fishing these snook right along those little troughs on the beach. So great opportunity for some big snook right now. Early morning on the beaches. At night, I'd be targeting snook around the passes, bridge lights, dock lights, that kind of thing. We're coming up on that new moon, which should make dock light and bridge light fishing even more stellar as we move through the work week. Some nice solid red action. Reds are real active in the early morning before the heat of the day picks up, but you can get them during the heat of the day if you're looking for them in the shade underneath the mangroves, local docks. Tons of sharks around right now. Sharks are super active throughout the area. These schoolie-sized snook are really active in the upper and back bay areas around the dock lines, around the mangroves, around the flats. Big snook in the pass on the dock lights, bridge lights, hanging out around the jetty. Our good buddy John Sasser with a solid snook there from the jetty the other night. Some really big snook in the kayak from around the area too, along the Johns Pass jetty. Some really solid trout action despite warmer weather. We're seeing some pretty big trout scattered, even into the shallows following the mullet like the redfish. We're seeing a lot of trout on the edges and in the deeper potholes as well. That's about it. Inshore, let's move a little bit further near shore and offshore, show you what we're catching a little bit deeper. A little bit deeper right now, obviously, we're pretty darn focused on those red snapper. Red snapper has our focus, but We are catching a lot of mangrove snapper. This was a recent mangrove snapper private fishing charter on the hub. They crushed it. Here's a porkfish, kind of a unique one we catch from time to time. They are unable to be kept, but they sure are pretty. Wanted to show you that one. And fat red grouper by our friend Christina. She is crushing those fish, always out fishing her husband Lance, making him look bad while she's doing it. Solid red grouper from Christina right there. Red grouper are officially closed tonight. Today is the last day for red grouper until the start of 2025. So these are the last keepable red grouper this past week. But we got some solid fish to close out our red grouper fishing, and we will resume catching those red grouper January 2025, unless they announce another red grouper short season. Remember, these landings come in 2-month waves. So wave 1 is January, February. Wave 2 is March, April. Wave 3 is May, June. So red grouper close at the end of June. It's going to take a solid month and a half for that information to make its way back to NOAA. So about mid-August, they'll start to get preliminary data. By the end of August, we'll have some really solid info, and at the August Gulf Council meeting, we should hear if there's going to be a red grouper reopening. If there is, which I'm not holding my breath for, not counting on it, it is very possible and very unlikely all at the same time, so I'm not holding my breath for it, but if there is, we'll find out about that at the end of August, and most likely they would be opening it up probably around, I would guess, October-ish. So stay tuned. We'll find out about that possible red grouper extension at the end of August. But like I said, I'm not holding my breath, so don't count on that. But there is a faint chance of hope. But without that, we'll see red grouper again January 1st, 2025, when they automatically reopen. Some big solid red grouper to close it out, though. Definitely some beautiful fish. We're catching and releasing some gags. You can see the gag grouper on the descending device ready to go back down to bottom there. There it is, getting hooked up to the descending device. Solid mangrove snapper. You can see the trend here. Christina holding the fish. Lance is not in the photo, though. Big mutton snapper from the 39-hour trip. We're catching a few really nice mutton snapper. Solid piles of fish from the 39-hour with plentiful red snapper, some big scamps, some big mangroves, vermilions. There's Lance with a nice big red snapper. And some solid catches going on right now. Great time to get out there and enjoy some red snapper. The red snapper season runs until end of day, August 27th. So a lot of time for those red snapper. Here is a trumpet fish. Our buddy Don caught this trumpet fish on a slow pitch jig. Here's another 39-hour haul. You can see all those big scamp grouper, some solid reds in there. Big porgies, definitely a good time to get out there. The triggerfish will reopen in August. Remember, triggerfish are closed June and July. And look at this one. This one just came in. Very, very excited about these. Jerry Farmer Sr. and Jerry Farmer Jr. got matching American gray snapper, Hubbard's Marina tattoos. Absolutely beautiful. They're so pretty. So congrats, Jerry Farmer and Jerry Farmer Jr. You've got some fishing to do, boys. So solid Hubbard's Marina tattoos rolling in. Remember, if you get a Hubbard's Marina tattoo, one of our t-shirt designs or a Hubbard's Marina logo or some sort of variation of that, dominantly displayed on lower leg or lower arm, you get 2 free 39-hour trips. So one tattoo is 2 free trips. Jerry Farmer and his son get 4 free trips because they both got one of those tattoos. So pretty cool there. So congrats to them. And if you want to get a tattoo, shoot us an email, info@hubbardsmarina.com with your idea. We'll sign off on that, and you can go ahead and get that ink going on. And then get some free fishing. Can't beat that, right? All right, so we showed you guys what we're catching. Let's get into the weather. Talk a little bit about the weather. What's going on with the weather? Let's pop on over to hubbardsmarina.com. We're going to click fishing trips. Right there under fishing trips is the weather links. We're going to first start in our wind finder forecast area. Let's see what this weather link says. Look at that. Solid blues, dark blues, little bit of light blues, but solid dark blues all the way through, looking beautiful. Dark blue means no wind, less than 10 mile an hour, and with that means no seas. You can see some rain chances. Rain chances are here. It is summertime in Florida. Don't let the rain chances scare you. A lot of people getting concerned over the rain, and it's silly because the rain comes and the rain goes. You don't like the weather in Florida, wait 10 minutes, and it changes. But you can see here every day are some raindrops. We're going to have rain every day. It's going to rain. There's going to be 60, 70, 80% chance of rain. And that just means 60, 70, 80% chance that some part of the viewing area is going to get rain during the 24-hour period. Realistically, the rain chance should be pretty much 100% because there's a 100% chance that some part of the viewing area is going to get rain during that 24-hour period. So rain chances this time of year are useless. Ignore them. Pay attention to the radar, but don't get carried away. So there's the inshore forecast. We'll pop offshore and look at that graph. Look at that solid dark blues. Until we get into like the 8th or 9th of July. 8th or 9th of July, the wind kind of picks up. You can see on the inshore report it picks up a little bit. You can see on the offshore report it picks up a lot of bit. 8th and 9th of July, the reason that's picking up, this again, windfinder.com uses the GFS model, and that model is picking up some tropical action here later July 8th, July 9th. So popping back to fishing trips, Weather Links page. Right on the Weather Links page is our ultimate storm forecast. SpaghettiModels.com. This is our friend Mike's weather page. I love this website. It's got so many useful tools. Right up here, top left, you'll see GFS. I click that. It brings me to tropical tidbits. I hit regions. Then I scroll up here and I hit Western Atlantic, so it kind of zooms in on our area. I like looking at the precipitation maps personally, and you can see here we'll scroll forward to July 8th and 9th, and that is what's happening. A lot of that weather is, everybody's freaking out about Burl or whatever it's called. That thing's no big deal. It's like way out of our way. So it's not even going to mess with us, according to these maps. Plus, it's really early. It looks like it might be a problem for, like, Mexico. Maybe southern Texas. Then the one behind it doesn't really do much. Kind of spins around Bay of Campeche. It's another Mexico problem. So both of these storms right now not threatening our area, but we keep an eye on them because things can change. It's super early. That's, again, a pretty far distance away. So this is July 5th. So July 4th, going to be gorgeous. All of the weekend going to be gorgeous. This is something that might affect us like end of like July 8th, 9th, maybe. But even right now, it doesn't look like it's going to affect us very much. It's staying on the other side of the Gulf. So not much to be concerned about. Weather is gorgeous. Rain chances are there, but honestly, it's kind of nice when it rains because it is exceptionally hot. And if we don't have any wind, we don't have any waves, it gets even more exceptionally hot. So a little bit of rain isn't a bad thing. Kind of cools things down a little bit, especially for our inshore fishing folks. A little bit of rain isn't bad. It's a welcome sign. But definitely got to dodge those scattered showers, and around those scattered storms, sometimes that wind does pick up, those waves do pick up, so sometimes we might see a little bit of a bumpier condition around the storms, but not too much. So great time to get out there and enjoy some fishing fun. Now, we are going to go ahead and get into our first free giveaway of the night. But before we do, we want to make sure we give a shout out to some more of those star senders. We had Christina Hall with a big 3,000 stars. Thank you, Christina. LaShonda Brown, what's going on? Craig Robinson. We had Troy Davis with a big 1,000 stars. What's up, Troy? Missed you at Final Friday, brother. D. Beers with 1,200 stars. Richard Blazak, Shannon Alexander, Anthony Barnes with a big 500. Robert Bush, appreciate all those star senders as well. Now, let's go ahead and give away our first free trip of the night. Let's start out with the 5-hour half day. 5-hour half day for 2 guests. Let's see who the lucky winner is of that 5-hour half day. Winner is Noah Riker from Newport Richey. Nick Riker from Newport Richey. Congratulations, my friend. You got 5 minutes or less to text us your full home address to the phone number on the screen. 5 minutes or less. So make sure you text us your full home address to claim your free trip. Again, within 5 minutes or less. So congrats, Nick. And hopefully we'll get a chance to go fishing with you. Now, with that, we talked about our light loads, gag season, gag grouper season. People have been asking, I've been telling. Gag grouper season, we've been saying this since April. It's going to open up September 1st. It's going to be open a week, maybe 2 weeks. I'd be surprised if it was 3 weeks. Well, we got 15 days. So pretty much what we've been saying, a little more than 2 weeks. It closes September 16th at 12:01 a.m., making September 15th the last day to catch them. So gag grouper season opens September 1st through end of day, September 15th. And I do want to point out to you, September 13th is a 44. Oh my gosh, it's only got 3 spots left. September 13th was a 44-hour trip. It only had 25 people on it. And I was going to tell you how there's plenty of room on it, and that is not true anymore. But September 10th is a 39-hour trip. Got 28 people, so still half full. September 8th is a 39-hour trip. Only got 26 people. Only about half full. There's a bunch of Flying Hub 2 12-hour extreme trips in there. We'll add some more, I'm sure. We've got another 39-hour September 3rd. Got 18 spots open. So lots of 39-hour trips with availability to go catch your gag grouper. So book your gag grouper trips. The 12-hour extreme trips are going to fill. Those 39-hour trips are going to fill. Gags open September 1st. They close end of day September 15th. So book your gag grouper trips now. You don't want to miss out on that opportunity. Also, red snapper secret bait. So you guys might have heard, so far the biggest red snapper was 21.5 pounds. Walter Barr caught it. Well, he's been dethroned. The biggest red snapper of the season today was caught on the 39-hour trip that just came in this morning. Captain Will broke his own record, and I think it was D Flower. I'm not sure. I think it was D Flowers, I want to say, was the name on Facebook. Was that right? Yeah, D Flowers. It was 21.8 pounds. 21.8 pounds. So solid red snapper. And also, the secret weapon is out of the bag. Both big red snapper caught on, I don't know if it was both. I take that back. At least one of those big red snapper was caught in a really big live bait. And that was a spot tail caught on the 5-hour trip. So definitely the best idea to go get one of those big red snapper is doing a 5-hour half-day trip prior to the 39-hour trip, because if it's a Tuesday or a Sunday, you can get your gear on the boat ahead of time. So your gear's already loaded on the Florida, so that makes life a little easier if it's a Tuesday or a Sunday. And then you can go out there on the half day, catch some squirrel fish, some lizard fish, some spot tails, some of those, even some small white grunts, and gray snapper, and you could throw them in the live well and then take them on a 39-hour trip, and now you've got big live baits to drop down there for a big red snapper, because you want to avoid catching that 16 to 20 inch red snapper, right? You want to catch that huge red snapper, that 20-pound red snapper, not the 20-inch red snapper. So in order to get the bigger red snapper, use a bigger leader, a bigger hook, and a bigger piece of bait. You're going to have a chance for a bigger fish. Big bait, big tackle, big fish. And that holds true for those red snapper, gag grouper, all those fish. So definitely using the big live bait has worked really, really well. So check that out as well. Oh my gosh. Why does someone have to talk about Council Oak bacon? Council Oak is amazing. That is the steakhouse at Hard Rock Casino over in Tampa. If you haven't eaten there before, it's really, really good. Our friends, the Jimmies, go fishing with us all the time, and they got me started on the old Council Oak Steakhouse. premium bacon over there, let me tell you. But enough about food. So they asked if I booked 2 spots and the other person doesn't show up, can I keep their bag limit? No, that is not how it works. You could pay for other spots on the boat if you want, but you can't keep those bag limits because bag limits are based on bodies. So if you got boarded and you're like, well, I paid more money, but my friend didn't make it, doesn't fly. The officer's going to laugh at you. You got to have a person for each bag limit. So just because you paid for a spot doesn't mean you can keep an extra bag limit. But I like the way you think. It's an inventive idea, an inventive approach. Also want to make sure we give you an update on the seasons. I talked about it already. Red Snapper's open June 1st through end of day August 27th. That's Red Snapper. Amberjack is open May, and then it's supposed to be open September and October. I heard a little rumor that Noah is potentially gonna there's not even a good way to say this, drop the ball. The rulemaking is supposed to be in place to make Amberjack season September and October, but that rulemaking is not in place yet. So if that rulemaking doesn't get put in place in time, potentially Amberjack will open up August 1st and only be open for maybe the month of August, but a very short amount of time. So that would really suck. So hopefully Noah gets their job done, and we see Amberjack May, September, and October like it's been supposed to be. So hopefully they don't do that to us, because that would really, really suck. But Amberjack's supposed to be May, September, and October. Then we have Gag Groupers, September 1st through end of day September 15th. Red Grouper closed today. We might see a Red Grouper announcement for a short season at the end of August, but not hold my breath. Most likely they'll reopen January 1st, 2025. Then we've got Triggerfish open all year except for June and July. So keep that in mind. With that, it's time to get into your questions. What questions do you guys have here? What is the good middle of the road 2-speed conventional reel? So your lowest price 2-speed reel, which I don't really recommend, but if you're balling on a budget, the Pen Fathom 2-speed. So Pen Fathom 2-speed going to be your cheapest entry level 2-speed reel. Your next step up is the Shimano Speedmaster. Daiwa used to have a Daiwa Saltist 2-speed, but for some illegitimate reasons, they eliminated the 2-speed Saltist. So unfortunately, Daiwa does not have a middle-of-the-road 2-speed anymore. So you've got Pen Fathom 2-speed, you've got the Shimano Speedmaster 2-speeds, and then the next step up is that Daiwa Saltiga and the Shimano Talica are the two kind of top dogs. Accurate's there too. Accurate has a bunch of 2-speed reels. You've got, what's the other one? Yvette has some really nice 2-speed reels. But I would say the big dogs, the commonly purchased ones, are the Saltigas, which is going to be the upper level, and then the Shimano Speedmaster, and then the bottom of the barrel would be that Pen Fathom 2-speed. Not bottom of the barrel. In my book, I don't like Pen just because I've had bad experiences with customer service, but it is going to be the most entry level, easiest to afford, easiest on your budget, Pen Fathom 2-speed. But I would go with the Saltiga. It's definitely worth it for sure. Yvette makes a good reel. Accurate makes a good reel, but I personally prefer the Daiwa Saltiga. Would you use a large conventional reel for fishing in the past? If I was dropping down a bait for tarpon, I would. A lot of tarpon in the past right now. Big snook around the bridge or around the docks. Some conventional reels are a good idea. For sharks as well. So it depends on what you're targeting. But definitely a lot of big sharks around right now. Is it common when you shark fish that you have a moment where you think you're outclassed? I would say very common if you're using a big piece of bait. If you put out like a pretty good sized bonita fish, if you put a pretty good sized bonita out there, you definitely have a shot to catch a really big shark, even from shore. And you can have a 130 wide, massive reel the size of a small child, and it's going to make you feel like you're outclassed for sure. So big sharks really, they are impressive animals, so they can really put on a show for sure. Going on the 12-hour extreme September 1st, does that trip stop in shallow water on the way out to try to catch baits? Absolutely not. Go straight out to the deep water, really, really far, really, really fast. So definitely want to bring your bait with you. And we have a live well space available. Everybody on the boat holds up to 16 people. Everybody can bring a couple dozen live baits. You can bring your own live bait if you want. Just remember, it is a common live well. You don't have individual live wells on that smaller Go Fast boat. It is kind of a private charter boat. The 12-hour extreme is kind of a split charter style trip, but it's a fast boat. So it's only 44 feet by 14, so it's smaller. We don't have a lot of room for a ton of live wells, so you don't have individual live wells like you do on the 39-hour trip, but it's definitely awesome. What is the speed order of the Hubbard's fishing fleet from fastest down? Well, the Flying Hub 2 is named the Flying Hub because it is very fast. It goes about 33 to 35 knots, so right around 40 miles an hour or a little less depending on the sea state and the number of people on the boat, but the Flying Hub 2 is the fastest. Then you've got the Hub, which is another private charter boat we have. It cruises about 14, 15 knots, right around 20 miles an hour. Then you've got the Friendly Fisherman, which is a solid maybe 9 to 12 knots, depending on the trip and where we're going. And that's going to be a solid like 15 miles an hour or so. Then you've got the Florida, which we can run up. It was originally intended to be a go fast party boat fishing experience, but we do not run it fast to try to keep fuel costs down, to keep ticket costs down. If we ran that boat really hard, really far, really fast, we could get out there really fast and provide more fishing time, but we are going to burn exponential fuel. We're going to run those motors into the ground. We're going to have to buy new motors, buy more fuel, and ticket prices would exponentially increase. So we run the boat slower, and it only cruises at about 7 to 9 knots, or about 10 to maybe 11 miles an hour. So the Florida is the slowest. Friendly is the next step up. Then you've got the Hub. Then you've got the Flying Hub 2 up here. So that's kind of how it goes speed-wise. Next question. Are you still getting fresh bait? And should we bring salt to prepare the bait? If you're going on a 39 or 44-hour trip, 9 out of 10 times, 99.9% of the time, we have fresh caught dead bait in a brine at the back of the boat. So no, you don't need to bring stuff to brine your bait. You can bring a little cooler though, and you could take some of that brine bait to your spot, but I don't even think you need that. Really just a bait bucket, bring a handful of that bait to your spot and use it from there. But that's what I recommend, so it's up to you. The 39 and 44 hours where we have that. Let's see here. What's up with the sand in the pass? Nothing. We've had money to dredge, money allocated from the state to dredge the pass now for like almost 2 years, more than 2 years, and it is just stuck in a bureaucratic black hole at the Army Corps of Engineers. I heard that it was going to start in June. Obviously, that hasn't happened, so just hurry up and wait, unfortunately. All right, next question. Does that mean red grouper are closed for the whole state of Florida or just the Gulf? I have no idea about the East Coast red grouper season personally. I don't fish the East Coast, so I don't follow their regulations as closely, so I would have to check the Fish Rules app to see what the regulations are on the East Coast of Florida for red grouper. But I know in the Gulf, they are closed now. What would you recommend pinfish as bait for a 5-hour trip? No, we don't offer them for that reason. So we only offer shrimp as a live bait option on the 5-hour trip because pinfish isn't necessarily the greatest option for a 5-hour. Our 5-hour trip is our shortest trip, closest to shore. We don't go very far out, so we don't offer the pinfish as an option. Right now we offer the shrimp. And speaking of shrimp, that brings up a good topic to talk about right now. shrimp is extra shrimpy. Right around July 4th every year. Sometimes it's earlier than July 4th. Sometimes it's right around July 4th. We start to see shrimp selection and availability tank. And it happened. It happened today. We have 2 different shrimp companies deliver shrimp to Hubbard's Marina. And everybody in Tampa Bay, really from Sarasota to Newport Richey, every bait shop you go to that sells shrimp gets shrimp from the same fleet of shrimpers up in like Hudson area. And these shrimpers, they go out there and they shrimp the bay at night, and they fulfill all the orders for the whole region's bait shops. And they bring us shrimp every morning in these trucks. Now, this time of year, water starts getting hotter and hotter and hotter and hotter, and then all the big shrimpies, they move offshore at some point. So that has happened. All the big shrimp have moved offshore. Now it becomes really hard for the shrimpers to catch the amount of shrimp that we order. So our orders start getting shorted. So we only get 20, 30, 40, 50% of the shrimp we ordered. And the shrimp that show up are small. Like you need a magnifying glass to look at them. They're that small. And that happened today. So we have seen a huge decrease in the number of shrimp we get, and the shrimp we are getting are extremely small. Now people are like, what? I'm going to go to a different tackle shop and bring shrimp. Good luck, because every tackle shop in the whole region are getting the same shrimp. So unfortunately, this is just a product of this time of year. It's region wide. Every tackle shop experiences it. It's a very small number of shrimp, and they're very small. So you could go to another tackle shop and try to get some bigger shrimp. Some tackle shops will hand select your shrimp, but even hand selects get smaller this time of year. So it becomes very difficult. So definitely very common this time of year to start to see those very small shrimpies. So just keep that in mind if you come out with us and you order shrimp around July and into August. September, it starts to pick up a little bit more. We start to see the bigger shrimp start to return kind of in September-ish. But really, the rest of the summer, we're going to see very small shrimp. So if you come out and you order shrimp, just bear in mind they're going to be shrimp in every sense of the word. Did we run out of questions already? We pretty much buzzed through those questions tonight. If you do have a question you want answered during the show, live during the show, there is a phone number on the screen. But let's go ahead and do another giveaway. And once we do that giveaway, we'll start talking about some of the Gulf Council updates. We'll run through that and see if we elicit some more questions. So first things first, we gave away our 5-hour half-day trip for 2. Let's do our swag pack, our Hubbard's Marina swag pack for one lucky winner. Let's see who the winner is of the Hubbard's Marina swag pack. Keith Hasty from Vero Beach. Congratulations, Keith. You've got 5 minutes or less to text us your full home address to the phone number on the screen. So 5 minutes or less, Keith. Text us your full home address and your t-shirt size, and we'll get you out that Hubbard's Marina swag pack. Congrats on the win. All right. We did get some more questions here. Aside from the discount you receive towards your next trip, do you offer additional discounts for tough days of fishing? Generally, no, because unfortunately, we guarantee an excellent client experience with superior guest service, but we cannot make the fish bite and we can't control the weather. Now, we do everything in our power to try to make every day an awesome time out there on the water, but we can't control the fishing, right? So sometimes fishing can be slow, and because the fishing is slow, we don't normally offer discounts. Now, sometimes the fishing is really slow and like everybody on the boat has a bad experience. Then sometimes we might do something, but generally we do that like before you leave that day on that trip. For example, this past Tuesday, the 10-hour went out there and they went a little bit deeper. So they went past a lot of those bycatch. So We didn't get any gray snapper or white grunts. We didn't get a lot of vermilions, but we did get some really nice red grouper and some really big red snapper. So people who knew what they were doing, who fished deep water, really did well. Caught some big red snapper, big red grouper. There was some quality fish caught, but there were some people who didn't really do well at all and really struggled. So it is tough when there's some people on the boat who didn't have a good experience, had a tough day, and then there's other people who really did well and caught really big fish. So it makes it difficult in that respect, but we do everything in our power to make sure you have a good experience. So it's worth coming out and trying. Anybody can take you fishing, is what I always say. We set ourselves apart at Hubbard's Marina. We're the original and longest running because we set ourselves apart based on our people. We're really blessed to have an amazing team, and we try to provide, or we do guarantee to provide, an excellent client experience with superior guest service. And I stand behind that and try to do my best to guarantee that as well. So that's where we are set aside. I guarantee we're going to do our best to provide you the ultimate fishing experience, but sometimes fishing is fishing, right? Sometimes it is a little bit tougher than other days, so just keep that in mind. All right, next question. What else do we got? What do you suggest for a 7-year-old who is visiting Florida? She wants to go see the dolphins, the dolphin cruise. We guarantee dolphins. You get a free trip to try it again. Also, island trips. We have our 3-hour Shell Key shelling trip is an hour down, hour back, and an hour on the island. We don't guarantee you see dolphins, but 99% of the time you probably will see a dolphin, a manatee, a sea turtle, some seabirds, something like that. When you spend 2 hours on the boat cruising down the beach, you're going to see some cool wildlife. Plus, you get an hour on the island. So the 3-hour Shell Key shelling trip is a great option. The Shell Key Ferry and Egmont Key Ferry, you get more island time, but less time on the boat. So we do often see dolphins, but you get a lot more time on the island. Even fishing, 5-hour half-day trips, a lot of times you'll see some dolphins, and you get to catch fish too. So if you want to guarantee a chance to see some dolphins, the dolphin cruise is the best because we guarantee a chance to see dolphins, or you get a free trip to try it again. But I would say there's a lot of other options too that are going to be pretty fun. Really, we have every option in the world at Hubbard's Marina. If you can think it, if you can dream it, we can do it. Are there any hogfish being caught this late in the season? Hogfish are caught all year round, and hogfish season is open all year round. However, we generally see hogfish best in the cooler months. We catch more hogfish around October-ish through about April-ish. Then in the warmer months, we see them less. They spread out a little bit and become a little bit more difficult to target. So definitely going to see more hogfish when it cools off, and we catch more of them when it's a little bit cooler out there for sure. Question on TikTok. Let's see. We are open till January 1st for red grouper. There you go. So red grouper are open on the South Atlantic side, says Pete from TikTok. Let's see here. I have difficulty seeing how much would it cost to have someone help me with bait hooks. Well, if you do a private charter, even if you have difficulty seeing, the private charter is beautiful because you have a private captain, private captain and private crew kind of waiting on you hand and foot, so you don't have to pay any extra for one-on-one treatment. So that's what I would recommend. But if you do the party boats, we're going to try our best to help you out. We did have someone who went fishing quite a bit with us in the past, and his wife was blind, and she would come out fishing, and she did really well. She was really good at it and got the hang of it quickly. The crew helped when they could, but her group, her husband, helped her out a little bit, and by the end of it, after a few trips, she really didn't need any help. Kind of got to the spot, and she knew what to do from there. It was impressive. Well, let's see, what other questions do we have here? Depending on how many people are aboard, can you move around on the boat and fish from different spots on a 39-hour? Typically, during red snapper season, I would say no. But other times of year where there's lighter loads, sometimes you can move around a little bit, but definitely not a situation where you can just move around the boat all you want. It's you book a spot, that's your spot to fish. If you talk to the crew and you want to spread out a little bit, you can if it's a lighter load and there's room, but you got to be careful. You can't encroach on someone else's fishing spot that they have booked, but you can't move around constantly. But if, like, say, you make the mistake of booking in the stern and you want to spread out a little bit on a lighter load. For example, if we have like 25 people on the boat, a lot of times we'll have 18 people fishing the back quarter of the boat. So sometimes people will be out there and be like, why am I booked back here? This is silly. And they'll want to move up to an area where there's less people. And so you could do that, but you can't keep moving around the boat. How heavy is the Florida Fisherman? It's rated at 60, I want to say 64 gross tons, but that's a tonnage weight. The actual curb weight of the vessel, I don't know off the top of my head. I know the Flying Hub 2, because we have a lift for it, is 26.7, like 26,000 pounds, 26,700 pounds. So it is a heavy boat, the Flying Hub 2, and the Florida Fisherman is probably at least 4 times that. Can I fish your dock at night? Nope, there's a big old gate and no trespassing sign. So our main dock at Hubbard's Marina, you're able to fish there during the day. When our office is open, we let people fish off our dock as long as we're not actively loading or unloading. At night, there's fences, there's locks, there's no trespassing signs. Don't fish there at night. There's a lot of police that like to protect John's Pass, so they will come and they will check and you will get in trouble. We don't recommend it. I hear you reference gray snapper. Mangrove snapper, Key West grunts, and white grunts. Are all these the different species or different names for the same? So a gray snapper is the scientific name for a mangrove snapper with an A. So Gray snapper is a mangrove snapper if you're like a scientist. But no one calls mangrove snapper gray snapper with an A unless they're scientists or they work for the FWC or they're a smartass. Most people call mangrove snapper. That's their common name. If you go up to the Panhandle, a mangrove snapper is called a black snapper, ironically. And then if you get a really big one, it's a goozer. Gray snapper with an E is what we call, is the common name for a white grunt. A white grunt is also called a Key West grunt, tomato mouth grunt, a flannel mouth grunt. There's a lot of different options, but we call them gray snapper with a E. So, also a sand perch is commonly referred to as a squirrelfish. A razorfish is actually scientifically named a squirrelfish. So a squirrelfish is a razorfish. A sand perch is a squirrelfish. A Patagonian toothfish is a Chilean sea bass. There's a lot of differences between the scientific name and then the common name. So really it depends on what you want to call them. It's very regional and the demographics change. We actually had this conversation at the Gulf Council meeting. Cobia. It's called a cobia here in Florida. Even in the Panhandle, they call them cobia. If you start to get over to Louisiana and Texas, they call cobia ling. Very, very weird, right? Vermilion snapper. We call them vermilion snapper. We call them vermies. Up in the Panhandle, Northern Gulf, they call them mingos. Kind of weird, right? What's another one? It's all the ones I can think of. The gag grouper. Most people call them gag grouper. If you're a professional fisherman and you're over the age of 45 in the Madeira Beach area, you call gag grouper black grouper, which has been very frustrating at Gulf Council meetings. So a gag grouper is not a black grouper. A black grouper is a carburetor grouper. So a carburetor grouper is a black grouper. A gag grouper is a gag grouper. So a lot of problems there. So it's kind of funny, in my opinion. That's a rabbit hole we could go down. Scientific names versus common names. Do you think baby crabs are good for mangrove snapper on the 39-hour trip? Baby crabs are a great bait offshore. Red grouper love them. A lot of fish eat crustaceans, specifically Cubera snapper. Red grouper love crustaceans. Hogfish, big hogfish we catch sometimes out there. Definitely good options. Do small catfish make red snapper baits? Literally, a red snapper, I don't know if I said this before, it's the dumbest fish in the Gulf. I say that a lot, that's why I was being facetious, but literally you can catch a red snapper if you took a spoon, drilled a hole in it, put a split ring, added some hooks to it, drop that down, you're going to catch a red snapper. If there's red snapper down there, if you drop something flashy with the hook, if you drop a banana, if you drop fried chicken, if you drop a bonita, a squid, literally anything, a red snapper will eat it. They are the most unleader shy, most aggressive, most voracious feeders. Like, it does not matter what you use for bait, you're gonna catch red snapper. If you want to catch a big red snapper, drop whatever you want, just make it really big. Big bait, big fish. But literally, red snapper will eat anything. And to answer your question, catfish do make good baits. I personally haven't had success. I've brought catfish offshore before. I've heard they make really good baits for amberjack. I dropped down a nice catfish before for amberjack, didn't get one. Everybody else on the boat was catching amberjack, so I was like, I'm going to try this. I dropped down a big old catfish, didn't get an amberjack to bite it. So I reeled it up, dropped down a pinfish, caught an amberjack. So catfish do work, so I've been told. I've heard they work really well up in our rivers in the winter for tarpon. And you can even get some smaller tarpon on the catfish right now up in the rivers. So catfish work well inshore for tarpon. Offshore, red grouper love them. I've heard amberjack love them. Red snapper literally will eat anything, so including a catfish. But the trick is you got to trim the spines, which become dangerous because once you trim them, then there's broken bones there and they can poke you even easier. So be careful with the catfish. Do the boats typically fish anchored or drifting? It depends. We fish what is going to be best based on the situation. 99% of the time, if you're doing a 10-hour trip, 12-hour trip, 39, 44-hour trip, basically anything except our 5-hour trip, 99% of the time we anchor fish. Now, on the 10-hour, sometimes more often we drift. So inside 100 foot, we drift more commonly. Outside 100 foot, it's very rare that we drift. Our 39-hour trip that came in this morning did some drifting out there in very deep water because there was no current, no wind, and the boat was moving so slow. We did some drifting. So sometimes we drift even in deeper water, but generally we're going to be fishing on the anchor out there. If we're beyond 60, 70 foot of water, most of the time we're going to be anchor fishing. Most of the time. Let's go ahead. We did our 5-hour swag pack. Let's do our 10-hour all-day trip giveaway. 10-hour all-day trip for one lucky winner goes to Daniel Bieberly. Congratulations from Baltimore. Congrats, my friend. Well, we gave away our 10-hour trip. Let's see. We've got time for a few more questions before we wrap up. But before we do, want to make sure we give a shout out to Rich Fletcher with the big 1,200 stars. Appreciate you, my friend. Craig Robinson hit us a few times there. John Bull, Kathy Alexander, LaShonda Brown. Appreciate the stars, y'all. Any pelagic fish caught this week? We caught blackfin tuna, cobia. I think that's it. A couple blackfin tuna, actually. Are any grouper open now? Yeah, big scamp grouper. We're catching big scamp. We got big red snapper to go after. We've got big mangrove snapper, vermilions, yellowtail snapper, big porgies. We're seeing some nice muttons. So plenty of fish to go out there and catch. And scamp grouper are open right now. Best spinning combo for a 12-hour trip. Gonna assume you mean a 12-hour night trip because I would never, ever, ever, ever drop a spinning reel down on a 12-hour extreme trip. That is a bad idea, especially right now because we're fishing deep water for those big red snapper. You might run into a big scamp or something else, so don't ever plan on using a spinning rod on a 12-hour extreme trip right now. You want to use conventionals only, at least 35 pounds of drag or more on the 12-hour extreme, conventional only. If you're using a 12-hour night trip, you could fish like a 4,000 to 5,000 series spinning reel if the bite was slow, but I would be fishing most of the night with a 30 or 35 pounds of drag or more conventional reel, preferably a 2-speed reel. I'd be using it in high speed with like 50-pound or 40-pound test line and like 4 or 5/0 hooks, double snell, thread fin. That's what I'd be fishing a 12-hour night trip with. But if the bite was slow, maybe dropping down a little lighter tackle, 30 or 40-pound test on a 4,000 or 5,000 series conventional reel, and maybe a smaller chunk of thread fin. Is there too large of a size that can't be kept? What? Is there too large of a size that can't be kept on red snapper? There is no such thing as a slot limit on any offshore fish because of discard mortality. So you're never going to catch a fish and we're going to be like, that's too big to keep. Sorry. No such thing as a slot limit on offshore species. Let's see. What was that question? Fishing is getting harder. What does that say? Fishing is getting harder and harder every year with more boaters, more northerners staying year-round instead of seasonally. Do you think people will have to find a completely new way to be able to fish like 15 to 20 years ago? I mean, we're seeing that every day, right? There is only this big of a pie, right? The Gulf of Mexico is only so big. There's only so many fish in the Gulf of Mexico. So there's only so many fish that can be caught. And as that pie gets eaten by more people are going out there and taking bites of that pie, what happens? Your bites of pie have to get smaller. So when people are frustrated that seasons are shrinking, there's more people trying to catch those fish. More people trying to catch those fish, access is going to shrink. Also, you got to remember, 20 years ago was, 40 years ago, in the 80s, there was like 10 people fishing out there. And let's go into the 70s, right? They were using soap on a rope, and they might have had Loran C. I mean, my grandfather started out with rowboats and cane poles in the 1920s. In the 1940s, he got his first combustion engine. Then in the 1950s, they were using time. They would leave this location, line up that tree and that building, and they'd go 25 minutes this way. Like, literally, they were just guessing at where they were going. Then come into the 80s and 90s, they started getting Loran A, Loran C. They started increasing technology, and there was more charter boats. There was a few more people out there, but really it was just charter boats and commercial boats. Then as we move into the 80s, recreational boats started going out there. People had their own boats, and they had disposable incomes, and they were buying boats and going fishing. Fast forward to today, there's 1 billion recreational boaters. There's a lot of, everybody and their brothers are charter captain, and there's the same amount of commercial boats. The commercial boats have been under moratorium since the early 90s, since the year I was born. And since the mid-90s, charter boats have been under a moratorium. So there's never any more commercial boats. There's never any more charter boats. But recreational boats, every day, everybody's buying boats. They literally can't keep boats in stock. People are buying them so fast. And now they've got these cool little trolling motors that drop off the side of the boat and hold you on top of the spot. You don't even need to know how to anchor. You don't have to anchor. You just get out there and drop your trolling motor in the water and use your little controller around your neck. Also, they've got these cool little chips you put in your chart. Garmin Relief Shading shows you every rock. You don't need fishing spots. Just buy a $80, $90 chip, or get really fancy and get like one of those top spots charts or one of the crazy maps, the relief shading. And then you got all your fishing spots. Your trolling motor holds you over the fish. There's really no, and then you've got a radar nowadays. You can get your little Go Fast center console with 3 or 4 or 5 motors in the back. You could be going 60 miles an hour, and you can use your radar to cursor over to that fishing charter boat over here, put your cursor on them, and steal their fishing spot. So now you can be going 50 miles an hour, 10 miles away from these other boats, and steal all their fishing spots too. So nowadays, technology has made it to where anybody with enough money can go out there and be effective offshore. So the barrier to entry is lower. There's more people out there. So yeah, fishing is going to get more difficult. You're going to have, I mean, I'm 33 years old. When I was a kid, fishing on that 39-hour trip, 8, 9, 10, 12 years old, we used 80-pound test. You never used less than 80-pound test. It was 80-pound test and like 8, 9, 10-aught hooks, big old leads, big bait. No one used light tackle. I remember when it started. I was probably like 12, 14, 16 years old. People started to use 60-pound test, and then someone started using 40-pound test, and you're like, what? 40-pound test? That's so light. But as seasons started to decrease and fish started to become less available, we started to see smaller bag limits. I remember we used to be able to catch 8 gag grouper per person per day. On a 39-hour, that's 16 gag grouper. When I first started, it was 10. And then it went down to 2. Now we're only allowed 2 gag grouper per day, you know? So definitely has changed significantly over the time. So more people fishing definitely has decreased the amount of fish we can take, and our seasons have gotten smaller, so we've seen effort shifts. Now people are using spinning reels. If my grandfather was alive today and saw what we do on 10-hour trips, he would lose his mind. With all these people going out there with spinning reels and 30-pound test, dropping 1 and 2 ounce egg sinkers with live shrimp for hogfish, lose his mind. He would be taken aback because we were using 80, 100-pound test. It was just it's changed significantly over the years, but not necessarily a bad thing. There's more people out there. It's great. Fishing is growing. I'm not complaining, but it's definitely changed for sure. So look at our area. I mean, my father is 67 years old, still a young man, and he used to ride a dirt bike down the beach from Don Cesar to Hubbard's Marina. If you started a dirt bike on the beach, you'd be arrested. So there's just more people around, right? So more people is definitely going to change our fishery. But we could go on forever about that. It is definitely different. Definitely different. Things have changed. We didn't really cover much of the Golf Council stuff. We're kind of out of time. The big thing from the Golf Council meetings this past week in Houston was obviously the gag grouper season announcement, but also we're really close to getting our 20-fathom closure removed. So we're going to need your help as we approach the August council meeting. We'll be in Biloxi, Mississippi. We're not going to do too much of a push there because they're not going to have it on the work plan. We're probably not going to see it come up on our agenda. But guess what happens in November? There's 5 Golf Council meetings a year. There's one in January, there's one in April, there's one in June, there's one in August, and then there's one in November. And this year, the November meeting is in St. Pete, Florida, baby. So downtown St. Pete, right here in our backyard, the Golf Council will be meeting. So I will be requesting your support and your help, writing comments, emailing comments, and if you want, you can even show up and hang out with me and show up to the podium and speak your comment in person. So stay tuned. That'll be pretty interesting. All right. With that, let me make sure we covered everything. We got a light load on Tuesday's 39-hour trip, tons of 12-hour extreme trips that we added, new 12-hour extreme trips in July. Super light loads, especially this Thursday, this coming Sunday. So book up those light load extreme trips now. Gag grouper season is finalized. Book those 39-hour trips. They're filling fast for sure. Don't forget to vote. Tonight's your last chance to vote. Remember, voting closes tonight on Tampa Bay's Best of the Best. So make sure you check it out and vote for us. Don't forget to become a supporter. Our supporters after show is going to kick off. Let's call it 8:45. No, let's call it 8:45. We'll go for 8:45. The supporters after show in our private supporters group. Make sure you check it out. It's only $4.99 a month. You get behind-the-scenes access to that private after show, more information, behind-the-scenes information, upfront information. So if you want to know about things first, you want more communication, definitely think about that supporters group. It's only $4.99 a month. With that, it is time to do our final giveaway of the night. We did our 5-hour half day for 2, our 10-hour all day for 2. We did our swag pack. Let's find out who won our 39-hour fishing trip for one lucky winner. One lucky winner, 39-hour trip. Hopefully, we'll see you guys out in the water soon. Don't forget, every Sunday night right here, 7:30 p.m. for our live stream show. Tonight we were on TikTok, on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Between just Facebook and YouTube, we had over 300 people watching. I think on TikTok we had like 1,600 viewers on TikTok. That's crazy. And Instagram. So lots of viewers tonight. Appreciate you being a part of our Hubbard's Marina family. Every Sunday night right here, Hubbard's Marina. Join us for our live stream show. We're the #1 charter boat in the entire country, thanks to you guys. Thanks for being a part of our Hubbard's Marina family. We'll see you next week for another episode. Let's find out who won the 39-hour trip for one lucky winner. Bum, bum, bum. Winner is Katie Edens. Congratulations, Katie. You have won the 39-hour fishing trip from West Virginia. Katie Edens, you've got 5 minutes or less to text us your full home address to the phone number on the screen. Don't forget, if you're too busy to go fishing, you're just too darn busy. Hopefully, we'll see you on the water soon. Also, reminder, after the show ends, if you wake up tomorrow to some weird notification, say, oh, you're a special winner, click this link and give us your credit card. It's Facebook spam. Don't be fooled. If someone comments on your post tonight and says, you won, click this link, give us your credit card, it is fake. Don't click the link. Don't give anybody your credit card. We only give stuff away during the show. So if I did not put your name on the screen and tell you you won and that you've got 5 minutes or less to claim your free trip, you did not win anything. We will not comment to you and tell you to click a link. You've won, give us your credit card. That does not happen. So don't be fooled. Don't be tricked. Don't fall for spam. We'll try our best to make sure it stays off the page, but sometimes they're pretty sneaky and they'll create new pages and sneak in there and use even our photos. So look for the blue check and don't click any links and give your credit card. Y'all have a good night. We'll see you next week. Thanks for watching and thanks for being a part of our Hubbard's Marina family.